single malt, blended, aged 12 years, triple distilled, cask strength, Irish, Scotch.
When it comes to whiskey, it can be really hard to know what to order. What is the difference between a single malt, a blended, and a bourbon?
To find out,
Hi, Jager. Lovely to see you.
Hey, Jerry.
I've invited drinks expert Jager Wise to pull up a stool with me at the bar.
Behold, a dazzling array of whiskies. How on earth do you tell the difference between them?
Well, it can be quite complicated. Even the type of grain that's used, whereabouts it's made, the type of cask, all of these differences will determine a difference in flavour and ultimately a different whiskey.
Well, let's get this lesson started. First up,
What makes a single malt a single malt?
OK, well, the single part of a single malt means it comes from a single distillery. And the malt means it has to be made with 100% malted barley, which looks like that.
Is there leeway with that?
No, not at all. And there are actually strict laws that govern this.
next, bourbon.
Bourbon is a type of American whiskey, traditionally associated with the state of Kentucky.
What is the main characteristic of a bourbon?
What makes a bourbon is it has to be made with at least 51% maize or corn.
How specific? 51%.
51%.
Just like the Irish whiskey that's going into our liqueur, bourbon's taste is influenced by the subtle, buttery flavours of maize.
And you're probably thinking, what's the other 49%? Well, it can be a whole myriad of other grains. It can be barley, it can be wheat, or it could just be more corn.
Whiskey makers are very strict, very specific.
People take their whiskey very, very seriously.
But the grain is just the start.
Oh, wow, look at this.
How the alcohol is distilled is also crucial.
This looks like a kind of cartoon character from a children's animation.
This is called a pot still, which is made of copper. And copper helps to strip the impurities from the whiskey. The higher the surface area of copper to whiskey, the more impurities are removed. So if the still is taller, then there's a higher surface area, which means you'll have a more lighter, more delicate whiskey.
So the type of still can have as big an impact on taste as the type of grain. But whiskey makers have even more ways to play around with flavour.
So we've tried a single malt, we've tried a bourbon. So this here is a blended whiskey.
OK, let's give it a go. Gonna say the word earthy?
Yeah, it's quite earthy.
OK, what does the word blended mean in this context?
A blended whiskey can mean a mix of whiskies from multiple different distilleries. You would tend to blend whiskey to get a flavour profile you particularly wanted.
In the way that a painter might use different colours to get a very specific colour.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite their complex differences, there is one simple thing all whiskies have in common. They must be aged in oak casks. These casks are often second-hand and have had a previous life maturing other drinks like sherry, port, and even wine.
One of the things that I've noticed is there seems to be a real emphasis on where the whiskey is made. Scotland, Ireland, Japan, America. Does that actually make a difference to the taste?
It makes a huge difference, and that's largely because they all have different whiskey-making traditions. And they all have different geography as well. So things like the type of water will have a massive difference on the flavour of the finished product.
So if you're a whiskey aficionado, you are going to notice the difference between a Japanese and a Scottish whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might not.
Give it time. OK.